If you've been enjoying our podcast as much as we have and hope that we continue past 50 episodes, here's your chance. Here's your chance to help make that happen. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, not only will you help the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary podcast to live on, but you'll also get exclusive content just for you.
Here's what's in store for you. Join monthly Q&A sessions where you can ask us about anything. Whether it's about our work, personal interests, or advice on your own projects, we're here to connect and share.
Enjoy unique content created specifically for Patreon subscribers, including bonus segments from our shows.
You'll have a say in what we create, and you'll have a voice in future content.
Benefit from exclusive discounts on merchandise and entries into special giveaways. It's our way of saying thank you for your support.
Receive personalized shout-outs in videos, podcasts, or social media posts.
Because your support on Patreon allows us to dedicate more resources to creating the content that you love.
You could join the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast community on Patreon and become a Prairie patron for just $5 a month. We thank you so much for your continued support, and we cannot wait to share our ongoing journey with you on Patreon.
We are extremely grateful for the support of VisitSimiValley.com and the city of Simi Valley's belief in Little House on the Prairie and their support of the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
Discover the charm of Simi Valley, California, the home of the prairie. Visit Simi Valley, where adventure meets history and the spirit of the prairie comes alive. Explore the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, step aboard Air Force One, enjoy stunning hikes and savor delicious local cuisine. Whether you're here for a weekend getaway or a family vacation, Simi Valley offers something for everyone and is only 30 minutes from Los Angeles. Plan your visit today and experience the best of Simi Valley. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more details. Your adventure awaits in Simi Valley.
Hello, bonnet heads. How are you guys? It is I, Pamela Bob, your host, creator of Living on a Prairie, and I am here with our famous prairie bitch. That's right, Alison Arngrim. We love her so, even though she's nasty. And of course, we're also here with our hashtag imaginary boyfriend. Uh-oh, I see a prop. It's Team Butler.
So you're saying something nice and it's going to go,
You want your kazoo, man.
Yeah, got the kazoo.
Well, what's going on, folks? Any news this week?
Well, just really here, it seems like it's Little House all the time for me. So not only are we prepping we're prepping our agreements to be able to do events. We are actually in pre-production producing an event currently. I am attempting to step into my my new book that I've just sold and are going to go for a second one. So
have you started it?
Yes, I have.
You have.
Yeah. And but boy, I can tell you, writing the second one is going to be much tougher than writing the first one.
Oh yeah. Well, because the first one was really.
It's all about my. It was in my case. It was all about my life. There was nothing fictional about it,
and I'm sure it felt very inspired. Yes.
Well, it felt like I knew it so well. Now, what I'm working on is something that I really have to be thinking about and plotting and researching more to be able to be intelligent about it or somewhat clear about it. So anyway, I think it's a much more challenging thing to do. That's, I would say about that. And then on the last thing, last week, we just announced a wonderful new event at our Simi Valley, or rather our Columbia event, a ride on the Sierra Railroad steam engine number 3 for our event. And what a really cool thing we're going to do, and it's just between us.
Okay, we won't tell.
We're going to be celebrating Kent McCrae's birthday because we are doing the train event on his birthday.
He loved that train.
And we are doing something special with the train to honor Kent McCrae.
Okay, I'm in suspense.
Yeah. So that's going to be really fun. Alison, what are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm wondering if I should eventually sleep.
Yeah.
9 shows in France, and then I came back from France on Monday night, and now it is Thursday. I'm in Atlanta. I got a couple days, and then I'm here, and I have a show. I'm doing a show tomorrow here at the Front Theater. Tomorrow, so I get to hang out here. I'm gonna and then tomorrow I'm just gonna chill and deal with the show.
Always
and then
easier coming back to the East Coast than
going
over there.
I'm gonna go home. I'm not flying out early, and I think I'm going to tea on Sunday. That's my schedule. I'm gonna chill, and then it's all interviews because basically Dee and I are getting interviewed nonstop about what do you think about the new show? What do you think about the new Little House? What do you think about the new Little House?
That's a big deal. Yeah, Alison and I are doing interviews together, which is a fascinating thing.
About the Netflix show?
Yeah, about the Netflix show.
That's why they call, and then we're like,
that's what's starting the conversation. Yeah,
we have books and an event up in Sonars.
And a podcast.
And we sell our gear as it were
too. But people are fascinated by what's to come with this new series, and we can talk about that with our upcoming guest.
Okay. Well,
he's chuckling.
All right. Well, we'll get to it then. Coming up today, and we're recapping an episode all about men and boys. That's right. But first, 2 of my favorite things. But first, produced in the studios of UPN Go in Burbank, California, this is the Little House 50th Anniversary Podcast. Okay. All right, Dean. Hit us. What are we recapping today?
Okay, well, today's episode is episode 10 of season 5, Men Will Be Boys. Men Will Be Boys premiered on November 13th, 1978, written by Don Baaaack. I think a really nice script by Don. I worked a lot. When I came on the show, Don had become a very stable part of that staff and wrote some really wonderful episodes. So written by Don Baaaack and directed by our pal, William F. Claxton.
The Claxter.
He was just wonderful. So
Claxter returns. Love
so
him.
Alison, what's the synopsis of this episode?
Yes, best part of the podcast. Here we go.
Is while their fathers secretly trail them, young Albert Ingalls and Andy Garvey set off to prove their mettle as men by accepting a challenge to live by their wits during a week-long, it doesn't take that long, week-long overland walk from Walnut Grove to Sleepy Eye and back. It does not take a week to walk to Sleepy Eye because I've been in a car and driven it. It's not but fine. Also, there's no mountains and trees and the thing.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
We can talk about that.
God, but that's what it's the boys versus the men, and who will win.
And the hijinks ensue is what you can sort of button that up. So Albert and Andy are doing summer work to make wages. Well, before we go too much into that,
we have to bring our guest.
Let's bring in our guest today.
We are so blessed. That's right, blessed. Because once again, we have one of our favorite people ever here joining us on the podcast. The one, the only, Patrick Labyorteaux. Welcome back, Patrick. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So excited
We love having you so much.
As everyone here knows, this is my favorite episode. So this is really exciting.
Is it really?
You took you just took that. That was part of the setup. It had to be that this is one of your favorites, and you've always said that. It's been very consistent for you on that level. So I'm just going to give you my quick recap of this, and then you'll get into the specifics of it. But so Albert and Andy are doing summer work to make wages. And because they're contributing as men, they don't feel like they should either have to go to school or do chores around the house.
Right.
Now, Jonathan, in a really interesting, so Jonathan Garvey remembers an event that he has with a relative, which triggers the idea, and of course there's pushback on this, that the boys are really still boys, but they don't think they're boys. So the parents, the 2 fathers, decide that they're going to teach their sons a lesson. And then the next hour or the next 40 minutes is really, really fun. The thing that jumps out at me about this about what we see in this episode, particularly with Michael. I feel like this is a flashback to Haas and Little Joe. Is what the vibe feels like between them. It's that energy. Yeah. Michael loves that dynamic with he being the little buddy to the big guy. It's a wonderful dynamic for him. It works. I think sometimes it leads Pa to cease being Pa, as we know Pa. You know, he becomes something else in the interest of the drama. Or in the interest of the comedy.
Comedy, yeah.
But then, and in this case, the comedy. And he comes back, by the end, of course, there's a lovely ending to this. It all comes back around and Pa is the Pa that we expect him to be and that people love and the boys are great and Jonathan's great. But the thing that jumps out at me more than anything else about this episode, other than the beautiful scenery in Sonora and the wonderful dynamic of the brothers, is this Michael playing this different brand of comedy that he does in these kinds of situations. It's very interesting, and it is who he was in this kind of situation. But Patrick, that's my quick take on this, or longer than quick take. How do you feel about the episode?
I think you nailed it. One of my favorite things about Michael was how funny he was, and it's the first thing I tell people is like, you don't understand how funny Michael was. I think this show, there's many of them, but because we did so many episodes of the show, but this is, I think, one of my favorites because Michael is so funny in it. And Merlin's funny in it. I mean, the dads are really funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And like you were saying, it got me thinking. Obviously, there are a lot of tropes in this show with, Sullivan's travels with, me and my brother and going, traveling across the country, where you've got not Sullivan's Travels. What was it? I want to pet the rabbits.
Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah, Gulliver's Travels was one, but like the other one, the one where it's like the smart one and the dumb one.
Oh,
and Andy was the dumb one. Mice and Men. Yeah, I want to pet the rabbits. and so it's like you've got these type of that dynamic of city boy versus country boy. And Michael and Merlin just killing it with the comedy. Because I've always said, I watched Little House before I was on the show because it was about a girl my age. Someone that's like, these are stories about someone that's my age. And of course, Melissa is so like magnetic and like you just watch her do anything and it's really entertaining. But I was never a big fan of the heavy-duty drama, which Little House had all the time. I like the funny. The Werewolf in Walnut Grove was another one that reminds me of like this type of thing. Harriet's Happenings. There's a lot of different type of episodes where you get more comedic-centered performances, and that's why. And plus, I mean, the basic idea is my brother and I were up in Sonora in the woods. I mean, that was just so much fun.
The woods of the prairie, yes.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The mountains and forests of the prairie.
Sierra Madres of Minnesota.
When you're walking from Walnut Grove to Sleepy, eventually you can see it in front of you because there's nothing in the way and it's completely flat. You can go, and there it is over there. There's no mountain or river to cross. It's hysterical.
I have to say, like the trees and the foliage really stood out in this episode.
Oh my God, yes.
Really stood out this episode. But anyway, let's start from the beginning, right? From the beginning, move over, Carrie. There's a new girl in town. Baby Grace is rocking the Ingalls home, cute as can be. She's looking at the actors. She's looking at the lights. I love when babies look at the studio lights because it's so obvious.
Funny.
And Albert.
This is before she had the really long white hair. I mean, she's very early on.
I know. She's just staring at the studio lights. Yeah. I had a girl Me Too moment with Ma telling Albert to make his bed because she's like, when you live in a house this small, any little thing. And I was like, yes, I know, I relate. Make your bed. Anyway, this is the thing that stood out to me, which I've never. This is new. So they were like, you're on summer vacation. And I thought, summer vacation? Did they have summer vacation then? So I turned into Alison and I sleuth. And I have facts. Do you want to hear the facts? Okay, here are the facts. In the 1870s, schools in the United States, especially in rural areas, often had 2 terms, one in the winter and the other in the summer, with the idea of long summer break not yet widely instituted. In rural areas, children were often needed to help with the farm work, of course, during the summer, which influenced timing of the school terms. Right. This shift towards a longer school year and a more standardized calendar, including long summer breaks, began in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But for some reason, this is the first time that ever stood out to me of like, summer vacation seems wrong.
That's the main farm work time. That's crop time. No. Yeah. And then the harvest. So it's like after harvest and like before planting is like your big school time.
Also, not only that, they're all in jackets. They're all wearing heavy jackets.
And it's windy. It's like, what is the temperature? And they're freezing. They were freezing at night, too. Everybody's so cold, and then it rained. What was that?
If you're really in Minnesota, you're sweating at night in the summertime. The humidity is unbelievable.
Giant mosquitoes.
That's so funny. I didn't even think about that.
I'm like, why are they all in warm coats?
And it's a great story when they shot this movie called Children of the Corn. Found out that there's a special law in where there's corn that you can get kid labor because they need all the labor they can, and it's still on the books. Wow. So they found this place to shoot this movie and exploit all the child labor they could based on that very thing that you're talking about, harvest. It's like it's harvest. And so they had all of this planning based around that. But of course, just before people get too freaked out, no, we were all, as far as the actor kids, we didn't go to school in the summer, which is why we love it and why they shot Little House in 1,000-degree heat in Simi Valley.
Sure. Boy. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it was a great, the actual shooting of it. One of the things I don't think I've ever told anyone.
We won't tell.
Yeah, no, it's just between.
No, it'll know.
No. Is, as brothers will do, we had all these little games and competitions that were always part of, like, growing up together. And one of them, when you're a child actor, is, for us, was how fast can you get out of wardrobe? Now, understand that there are rules because when you're raised good, you don't leave your clothes in a pile on the floor. You leave them laid out as a little flat person or hanging or whatever it is, because the people that are wardrobe don't need to be picking up after you. So you had to get out of your wardrobe, change into your street clothes, and be out of your trailer or be out of your honey wagon. I think we actually shared one. So it was basically a race, to the point where it became, one of us was smart enough to realize, hey, wait a minute. If I don't take my clothes off and just put my wardrobe on top of my clothes, then I can be faster than the brother. So we ended up in this episode, every scene we're in, all of our street clothes are underneath our wardrobe because we wanted to win the who got changed first. So we're wearing street clothes under all of these, which worked out well because even in the summer the mountains were cold. Yeah, but still, it was it's like every time I see this episode, I go, I'm wearing my T-shirt underneath that gingham.
We did that on Broadway when I was in Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. It would always be this. We would always have a break before the final scene we had to be in, and we'd take off the corset because no one could really tell if we didn't have the corset on, and we'd put in like our pants under the big skirts so that we could get out of the theater faster. Isn't that
exactly
bad? That's so naughty. It's really naughty.
That's like,
don't tell anyone.
What?
We were basically Broadway actors out on the prairie.
Yeah, I have just a quick Broadway story.
You were in the summer in the elements.
A quick Broadway story to interject that I love that. Our musical director at Into the Woods was a wonderful conductor named Paul Gemignani, who was like legendary,
absolute legend.
Paul wanted to make a particular train after the end of every show. And he obviously, she's been doing the show for hundreds of performances. He knows exactly where we are so that he's going to
get on that 1120 New Jersey Transit. Yeah.
My God, those tempos started to work to make that train work. And there were nights when we were flying through the end so that Paul would make his train.
Into the woods. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, you can't even say it. It's going so fast.
That's funny.
And he was not going to miss that train. And that's one.
Right, because you miss a train,
thing.
you have to wait an hour for the next one.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that.
Anyway, yes, okay, all right. So,
and I'm glad to hear you
actual
hang up
summer
their clothes,
break.
because there were people who didn't. We all know there were people on that set who didn't hang up their clothes.
I'm sorry, no, what now?
There were people who didn't pick up their clothes.
There were certain persons who did throw their clothes on the floor. I'm not saying who. I'm just
No
saying.
one's naming names. No one's naming names.
Michael Landon.
How dare he?
I have another story.
knew it.
When I started the show, our men's costumer was a wonderful, very shy retiring guy named Mike Termini.
Yeah.
And Mike, very early on, and I don't know how I could not have been hanging up the wardrobe afterwards, but I did get a note from him about please hang up your clothes when you're done. And
Dean.
I'm embarrassed to even admit that I had to be asked that. But from that point forward, I basically ironed the clothes when I was done with them and hung them back on the hanger, and the boots lined up perfectly and everything right there. I mean, that is and you realize, of course, these guys are taking care of, a dozen people.
Yeah. Wardrobe is hard.
It's hard work, and everybody's got their little idiosyncrasies with their clothes. And you, as an actor, you've got to hang up those clothes and make sure that they're in good order. No, look, they're all going to go to the cleaners anyway. Everything's going out unless it's built into continuity for something that you've done. But you want to leave that stuff looking good. So Patrick, you and your brother, your clothes were wrinkled probably at the end of the day. Your real clothes that you're
but real clothes for a 13-year-old.
Yeah, right. What? Your t-shirt and jeans. Who cares? Yeah.
No, I always think about the wardrobe people, because no matter how tired you are, and at the end of the day, you get to go home and they have to stay and do laundry, which is. Right. Ugh. Jeez.
Yeah.
Patrick, also, I didn't ask you this. What did you think when you got this script? What did you and your brother think? Were you psyched about this episode?
Absolutely excited. We knew we were going to be shooting. The thing I remember being excited about was that we were shooting in Sonora. I always loved going to Sonora. The little town there kind of felt like it kind of opened up its arms whenever we were there. It was just sort of really... And I don't, obviously we shot it during the summer, but we would also sometimes spend Christmas time up in Sonora, and it was really, really cool because
Beautiful.
Being from the valley, it's like, what's snow? And so having all of that in Sonora. So I was excited to go to Sonora. It was really great because we could rehearse at home and get everything ready so that when we were shooting, it wasn't like we had, I like to prep beforehand type of guy. And so on the day, no matter how old I was, I always just like to be ready. Mm-hmm. And so it was really great to have that. And then just the idea of like working with my brother on a much bigger part of because obviously it was just about these four characters. The dads and the sons. And so getting to work with my brother was really, really fun. He's a good actor. And we also obviously knew each other. So there were like all these inside things that we were doing.
How
and you mentioned
fun.
You mentioned Kent McCrae, who is in this episode.
Who is he?
Episode.
Is he the
You guys don't know this?
Wait a minute. Is he the spooky guy at the end?
Dude. No,
He's
the
the
fourth
creepy
guy at the
horse
end.
dude?
Yeah. That's Kent.
Well, wait a minute. Was he credited as himself?
Oh, I don't know if he was credited.
I think it's called Spook or something.
Deranged hobo of the woods, the deranged threatening hobo.
I've got to check that credit. I didn't realize that. I mean, how fun. How fun.
So it was really fun. And again, like I said, the whole idea of just boys and men, boys, I loved the girls on the show, but just when you're a teenage boy, it's like, boys. It's like, so hanging out with Merlin and Charles. And I tell this, one of my favorite stories happened in this episode about the berry bush, which, I tell the story online, but I'm a hungry person. I'm always hungry. I will always eat. And there was this ongoing war between me and the prop department with the food, right? And so I've got all these stories about food and eating. And we were out in the forest, and they found locations to do a great job. They found this area where it was a clearing, and they found a berry bush. And so the whole scene is that Albert and Andy are starving, and so they eat the berries, and then they continue on, and we kind of strip the berry bush so Pa and the Paws can't get anything to eat.
Yeah, they
and so
split
we're eating the berries, and I'm just plowing through them. On camera, you can see how fast I'm eating, and that was pretty much me off camera too. And Glenn, our assistant props guy, was like, "Hey,
hey,
Patrick, slow down on the berries." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I would slow down, but I didn't stop.
Didn't stop. Yeah.
And he goes, we do another take. And we didn't do a lot of takes, but in between each one, I'm chowing down on these berries. And he says, "Patrick, no, really, we just don't have any berries in between. We need to save the berries for on camera." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then berry, another. It's like, again, not stopping, but like, I'm totally get what you're saying, Barry. So we're doing the scene until finally Glenn, who is like all the other one, is just so calm with the kids, but he comes over and he goes, "Patrick, come on, man. I was up until 4 a.m. stringing this berry bush with these berries." And you looked, and he had sewn all the berries onto this bush because there's no berry bush that the locations people find in a forest, and then you shoot there.
Yes,
you bring the berries, you bring the bush, you make the prop. But I've only been in the business since I'm 3, so I'm new, and I don't get that, and I'm just eating these berries, and it's like to this day when I go, I just was at the store today. I was getting blueberries. I'm like going, I wonder how hard it would be to sew this blueberry onto a bush.
The poor guy. I actually was thinking that when I was watching the episode. I was like, ooh, the prop guy had to make a berry bush.
No, that's not really.
And they were really good. I can totally see Glenn asking you, trying to be really cool about just slow down on the berries, because
Glenn ended up being our prop guy on See Dad Run on Nickelodeon. He was our prop guy.
I love him.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that you used him. That's so nice.
That's awesome.
Oh, the Prairie family stayed together. Okay, here's something I need to bring up with you guys.
Yes.
So, we all know that Andy cares very much about honesty and truthfulness from the cheaters. And Albert wants to cheat and hitch a wagon and get to Sleepy Eye that way. And Andy's like, "No, because I have honor and I'm truthful." And we're like,
exactly like us in
Andy.
real life. He's a horrible, mean person, and I only want to help people.
Yeah.
But then, like that, Andy has no problem lying about his parents being dead.
Or orphans.
or being orphans.
He went along.
He's cool with that.
Went along. Yeah.
Well, he could smell the gravy.
He loved it. Yeah.
Andy knew where his stomach was more than anything.
That's it. That
I also tell this story again on another one of these stories was I noticed, because I'm doing all of these stories on TikTok and stuff, and I've got all of my
such a great
work.
job.
I know. I love your
Thank you.
TikTok. So good.
And I'm like kind of watching all of my work, and I noticed that in a movie I did called Heathers, where I play this like horrible jock, that in The Cheaters, when I push Albert down, it's like, oh, that's kind of like Ram Sweeney, kind of proto Ram Sweeney. But in this one, when Albert does that thing like, oh, I remember about home, and he looks up, and Andy looks up like, what are you looking at? Where's home? And then I do another look where I'm like, what is he looking at? Is what I'm thinking as the actor, right? And so I'm watching Heathers, and in Heathers, we're two jocks that come over to like intimidate Christian Slater, and the other jock goes, yeah, but there's a no, and then like a racial or like a sexual slur. He goes, yeah, but there's no blank rule here in in the cafeteria, and he looks up, and so I stole this look that I did in Little House, where I'm doing the same bit, where I'm looking around for there's this rule that doesn't exist because it can't exist, and it's really funny because, and I put the two things together, where this actor, who's me, but this actor is like 12, 13, is doing the same bit 10 years later.
Hey, if it works, it works, man.
It's a golden bit. And go ahead.
No. I was going to say two things because it is so amazing that you were in Heathers, which is an epic cult favorite film ever. But I actually just posted something for you, shared something with you on Facebook today, because one of those like Gen X groups posted a picture of you and the other male bully from Heathers, and it just said, if you know something bad is about to happen to these guys, it was like right before. And then the other thing is, there's a musical, Heathers, and it was off Broadway 10 years ago. And then it was in London last year, and they're bringing it back to off Broadway. Please come to New York. I'm sure they would love to have you at that show. I
would love to. We had Andy Feynman, I think Andy Feynman, the guy who did Heathers, and he also did the Weed musical about
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
I got a call and I was invited to like the read through of the very first read through of Heathers and sing through or whatever you call it, and it was just it was amazing. And I know the soundtrack. I think it's amazing to see that be turned into a musical.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, yeah, they're very fun.
Come to New York. Okay,
Excellent.
Back to Little House on the Prairie.
First, take a break.
Take a break.
We're going to talk about Heathers while we're on a break, you guys. And then when we come back, we'll get back to Little House on the Prairie and the Cheaters with Patrick Labyorteaux.
No,
we'll see you.
First, we'll be back with Men Will Be Boys.
With Men Will Be Boys.
Cheaters.
Sorry. Oh, boy.
We're doing.
I'm doing the whole thing again. Here we go. We're going to talk about Heathers on the break, but when we come back, we'll talk about Little House on the Prairie and Men Will Be Boys with Patrick Labyorteaux.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you're stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Throughout the summer, take the Little House 50th Anniversary Tour at Big Sky Movie Ranch. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information. We are so grateful to visitsimivalley.com for their commitment to presenting the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast.
All right, we're back. Alison just pointed out a few things. Alison, tell us what's wrong with this episode.
There's so many things wrong. I mean, it's hilarious. And like they were saying, it's a throwback to kind of a bonanza. Yark, 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 the guys out there. But the little boys have full backpacks and have brought things, apparently a frying pan, because they took a fish. They've brought cookware. As
they threw the fish out, and I'm like, bears, animals are around you. What are you doing? Yeah.
They brought things to sleep in, warm clothing. They brought blankets and things. Pa and nothing. They brought nothing.
They're lying there. They were going to be there more than a few hours.
Be back there for dinner.
But I mean, they take more than that to go work at the mill. I mean, they're like laying there. It made no sense. I'm like, oh my god, they brought nothing. And was this kind of a throwback to the whole Pa Almanzo race to the town I'm going to show that youngin' what's, and he's going to take a shortcut. I'm going, oh, wait, this happens again later with Pa Almanzo. I'm seeing all
Yeah, so this is season 5.
Very weird.
And that was season 7. Right.
Yep. So that I think there were some highlights. I went, that worked before. Let's, but yeah.
Probably
the two
a lot
guys,
of the same locations, too.
Yeah.
Probably right there in the same place.
And the fathers are cheating and lying. And thank God he fesses up at the end. But there's again, Pa is cheating.
This episode has my favorite line and line reading by Michael Landon, which is,
okay.
The shovels is by the dough.
The shovels is by the dough?
Yes.
Where does he say, I'm sorry, where does he say that?
When they run into the barn, the guy says, "Hey, you freeloaders, if you clear out, the stall, you can stay the night." So Paul and Mr. Garvey have a place to stay. He goes, "The shovels is by the door." So Michael underneath his brick goes, "The shovels is by the door." It was hysterical.
Okay. Wow, that's right.
Yes.
So
God.
that made me confused that I had to rewind it. And then when I realized what it was, made me giggle with laughter, was, when Garvey and Pa hear the screaming, right? The screaming. And you hear this very high-pitched, clearly little girl screaming. And then they have to realize, no, it's just the boys playing.
Just the boys swimming.
The swimming.
Yeah, it didn't sound like a happy scream. It sounded like, like it was a serious scream.
But it is if you watch The Simpsons, it's Ned Flanders. It's when Ned Flanders screams that way. And it's just so funny.
Well, that was me screaming, the high-pitched scream.
No.
And I was always, for real. Because, again, I was like a 12-year-old girl at that point. And it sounds way too much like the rabbit.
Scream. It's a real scream.
The rabbit. Oh God! And the rabbit.
The
rabbit.
Okay, we need to talk about the rabbit. First of all, was that the screaming rabbit is so traumatic? It's insane.
He gets very upset about these things.
What? Talk to me about the rabbit. Was the rabbit okay? The rabbit was okay.
The rabbit was fine.
Rabbit, of course, was fine, but it was really screaming. I never heard of it. I didn't know rabbits could do that or what they did.
Were you totally freaked out? Because I was watching it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why when you see me holding it, I'm like petting it, like a Lenny.
Okay.
I want the rabbits, George.
No, I had never heard that. I was like, what is the bunny, the poor bunny? No wonder you couldn't kill the bunny. And it was the cutest little thing, too.
Yeah, no,
Did they teach you how to hold the bunny?
No, I think you kind of grow up knowing how to hold a bunny. But they had it in the trap for real, and that's what was holding it,
the poor
But again,
thing.
like all of those things were like 2 feet off, was someone from Ray Berwick, like it was a trained rabbit. It's like, right.
Yeah.
You train the rabbit?
Yeah.
But
right.
protection for sure. But, it was just one of the great things about Little House for me and for my brother was, again, we're kids in the entertainment business in Hollywood. So this was kind of like a camp for us,
totally.
where we were doing things. I loved horses. We had a horse. I ride horses. And, being around all of those guys, with, you learn all of how to treat animals and livestock, which obviously, I'm not learning here in this city.
I then had a very morbid thought, which was, Pa and Garvey see them free this rabbit and they're starving. And I was like, what if they find the rabbit and kill the rabbit?
They're going to kill them.
They're totally about to kill that rabbit.
No,
and then I was like, what
the
if
rabbit would get away from them? That would be the point in this episode.
Because they didn't bring any equipment with which to trap a rabbit. Or
the rabbit would run away and turn and laugh at them as it dashed away.
you have a skillet in the backpack.
They have a skillet. So then, then the boys, find shelter. They get fed very well.
Great survival skills. Great survival skills.
And lying skills.
Well,
the whole orphanage
that was the
story.
thing. See, this.
But she
your
felt
brother
good and
did
we
very
felt
well
good.
turn on that stuff.
If you what did you say?
Well, Albert explains it. It's like, well, it's not really lying. She felt good, and we felt good.
He's such a con man.
Yeah.
He is such a con man.
Well, it's going back to the roots of the character as a
Of
kid who
course.
was on the street and living by his wits, and
Right.
it was right there. He had all that
Yep.
available to him.
But that was the thing, is it may have been shady, but they could talk their way into getting a meal, place to stay. And the two grown men are, shovels are by the door. They're out in the, the cow poop up in the barn. So
Well,
clearly the boys do what they're doing.
They're following. We've been following these boys for 3 days.
Right.
Getting very looked at sideways.
Well, the constable was on it. Constable was on it. Props to the constable for
The constable. This was the scene where I had complete hysterics, and I totally immediately thought of Pamela, because Pamela and I have had this running thing. We see these episodes where little girls get into the wagons of strange men Very constantly, hi, who are you? I don't know. Certain guy, oh, hi, Ma, I'm going off to go fishing with the Mr. Sprague. Who's Mr. Sprague? Nobody cares. I'm going to leave the strange man all day. And then she's been married. Oh, Johnny Cash, who's clearly all in black and a shady. I'll just get on the back of your horse.
I just hit on her. Yeah. She just goes with it.
And we're just like going, yeah. We know that in real life, Ma Ingalls was very protective of the girls. This never would have happened. And we're like, does no one think anyone's predatory? And finally, the constable goes, what are you guys doing? Well, we're following these little boys. You're what? You're following little boys.
Yeah.
You
he's the only one on it, on the prairie.
We've been following them for a long time. And the constable's like, come with me. And I'm like, I was like, yes, finally.
I was amazed when we shot all of that stuff because, as everyone probably knows at this point, we shot outside and inside. So sometimes you would be outside in the town, and sometimes when you're inside a room, you're probably inside the studio. But what they did for this episode was all the rain stuff with Michael and Merlin and myself and my brother was on a stage, which to this day, even being in other, I've done tons of things where we're in elements. The amount of rain that they created on the stage and the draining system was just fascinating because it wasn't like it was drizzling. It was coming down in buckets. Yeah. And they had, I don't know how many gallons, hundreds of gallons of water they were going through because it was like, it wasn't like that we were made up wet. They just put us in the rain, and we were just like soaked. It was a lot of weather in that episode.
That must have been so cool, though. That must have been so fun.
Very cool, cold. Yeah, well, I guess they could have.
But if you look at me, it's so funny when she goes, "Let's get you out of these wet clothes," and I start to undo my jacket. These are the things I notice. As you know,
you can see your real shirt.
I have no idea of how to get out of this prairie clothing. Like, in fact, Mike Tremaine he gave our family two wonderful gifts: water from Lourdes for my father who was sick, and he gave me a zipper for Christmas.
A zipper, just a zipper
in my wardrobe.
No,
so that I didn't have to do a button fly.
Oh my!
I was thinking you started taking off your clothes and then your T-shirt was underneath.
Oh, it probably would have been, but it looks. But what I recognize is like I don't know buttons. I'm like again a kid from the valley.
That's funny. Okay, so then should we skip to the end?
I think we need to get to the end.
Yeah, because
to the end. Yes, all the hijinks. Fathers rooting for the failures of their sons because
they want them to go to prison. They want them to go to jail.
Yeah.
But here's my other beef with this episode.
Oh dear.
They have left their wives and their families for going on 3-4 days now. And they must have been, which of course explains why when they return home, Ma is like, oh, Charles, because I'm sure she thought they were dead. Why wouldn't they be dead? They're in the wilds of the Sonora Prairie. Yeah. With trees and mountains and rivers.
Rabbits.
And lots of screaming, shrieking rabbits. That it reminds of Monty Python, the whole rabbit thing. Do you know what that reference? The Holy Grail? The screaming rabbits. Anyway. So, Patrick, any major takeaways from this episode you want to leave us with?
Well, between this and The Cheaters, it was my mid-season attempt to take over the show because I was all over this show, and it completely failed. After that, I think I was back to being like third in a group of like going, But I will say in The Cheaters, there's a shot where Andy pushes Albert, and he pushes him to the ground. I made that into a GIF, and so I have that on my phone so I can send to people.
Nice. I will say though, Andy, we've covered these episodes before. Andy had a couple of very hot moments. One, who was the girl Penelope that Albert liked, and you couldn't care less about her, and you told her you were stuck up. That's hot. 2.
Well, don't forget, I did the full James Cagney from White Heat with the watermelon.
Right, exactly. If a guy isn't into me, hot. All right, then the 2. Then 2 was, we covered, what episode was it? Oh, it was the in-laws where they stop by Garvey's house and Garvey and Andy are in bunk beds and
Yes.
Andy
Oh, and
pops
Andy doesn't
up
have his shirt on.
topless,
Right.
naked in his bed. And I was like, why is Andy naked in the bed? And they said, well, because it was Teen Beat era and he was a full-on teenager then. And I was like, okay, hot Andy, here we go. So
There's
you
actually
get
a
major
story.
points. Tell me.
The real story there was, God, this is like so many stories all in one. There was a gym at the Paramount lot that I started to go to, and that gym was the Squaw Man barn where they shot the very first movie. It's now the Lasky DeMille barn, and it's now the Hollywood Heritage Museum. But for years, it was the gym where people from the studio would work out at. And I used to go down and watch. Who's the boxer from Taxi? He would spar with
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza. So Tony Danza and our wardrobe guy Nick Scarano would spar in the gym during lunch hour when it was really
How did I miss this?
Yeah, Alison,
so-
where
I'd
were
have
you?
gone to that. I've gone to that.
And so I started to work out when I was like a little teenager boy at this point. And Michael, who's always worked out and probably worked out at that gym at some point when he was doing Bonanza,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
he said to me, we were doing that scene, and he goes, why don't you take your shirt off? I know you've been working out. And it was like, I hate to say it, I haven't told the story because it's like there's no universe where this comes out in the right way.
I'll try it.
So it's like, but it was so, I remember it being so cool, like, dude knows I'm working out, and I'm like, I'm getting gains. It's like I was like 14 or whatever I was. But that's the reason. It was like Michael, recognized
so glad
game,
I
I guess.
it.
And so there you go.
Of course it was Michael Landon's idea. Of course it was. I am so happy that I brought that up and know that story because literally I was like, why is he topless? I don't understand.
He was passing his torch saying, you too can take off your shirt on television, young man. Look at you.
That was the same episode I found out if Michael Landon waxed his chest or not. Because these are the important issues that we tackle here on the Little House 50th Anniversary Podcast. Anyway, we're going to exit on that note. Patrick, thank you so much for being here again. Please come back again because we love having you so much. And we love your stories. Your TikToks are awesome.
Just off
and
the
your
charts.
podcast is great. Please plug both of them while you're here. Go for it.
You can check everything out. It's patrick.labyorteaux everywhere, but the big one is over at YouTube. The Patrick Labor Show with Patrick Labyorteaux, where I get to talk to all of my friends that I work with, and we have a blast. The short stories are, on TikTok, but they're also on YouTube. And so please check out YouTube, join, subscribe, do all the good stuff.
And the Working Actors School. And do you have to be in LA to be in your school, or do you do?
Why, Pamela? What an amazing question that is. In fact, you do not have to be in LA.
Thank you.
And one of my favorite things about this is, again, I talk about my youth class. The youth class that I have, we teach classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific time. Monday is the acting masters that you have to be invited to. Tuesday's the youth, and then Wednesdays, any adult can join the class. And we do it over Zoom.
Love it.
And so I have classes where kids are in San Diego, Texas, and Connecticut, and Seattle, literally across the country. And it's amazing the kind of quality work you can get done. And these kids have never met anybody. They haven't met each other yet. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I will say it's so conducive to TV film. You really can do a very effective class over Zoom because it's here. It's all here. It's
exactly right. And because of the way everything has changed, everyone's doing self-tapes anyway. So if you know the camera, because you're going to be, if you're on a Broadway play, both of you know, all three of you know, if you're in a Broadway play, your energy level is going to be different than if you've got, a 30 millimeter lens in front of you and trying to express the same thing. It's going to be a different way to do it. So you can check that out at workingactorschool.com and then check me out on YouTube under patrick.labyorteaux.
I want to check out your Working Actors School. I want to see it. Do you let people audit?
I have videos that I send because what I like it to be is something that they can check it out, but it's mainly you gotta be a part of it in order for you to get the whole aspect of it.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's how we do it.
Awesome. Okay,
Nice.
everybody, if you're interested in acting, check it out. And if you want to hear really great stories and really great interviews, also check out his stories and his YouTube show, which are fantastic. And then, while you're at it, join us on Patreon. If you haven't joined us already, come on. We're so much fun. We have a great time. And we talk about things we can't talk about on the podcast. Right, Alison and Dean? Woo!
Yeah.
We have dirt.
And then join us on littlehouse50podcast.com and our socials, Little House 50 Podcast. All right, it's time. Bob, get the wig. Let's fly, everybody. Kazoo down the hill. Patrick's falling and he can't get up.